Before you even open your eyes in the morning, the world is waiting. Not the external world, the job, the traffic, the news, but the world inside of you. The one made of your choices, your habits, your beliefs. That world has more power to shape your life than any circumstance ever will. Let me ask you something. What if I told you your entire life could shift? Not in a year, not in a month, but with the words you speak in the first 60 seconds of your morning. Every morning you wake up, your brain offers you a choice. It can hand you the identity of who you were yesterday, your doubts, your regrets, your insecurities, or it can open the door to who you have the capacity to become. The decision isn't automatic. It's not passive. It's intentional. Most people live their lives unconsciously reliving their past, replaying their mistakes like a broken record they can't shut off. They say, "This is just who I am," as if identity were a birthmark instead of a behavior. But neuroscience tells us something revolutionary. Your brain isn't fixed. Your identity isn't fixed. You're not born with a permanent definition. You're constantly being written, shaped, molded by what you do, what you believe, and what you declare every single morning. Think about that. The person you were yesterday doesn't have to be the person you carry into today. The guilt you've been dragging behind you, you can drop it. The fear that's had its claws in your decisions, you can face it. The habits that have shaped your past, you can break them. You're not cement, you're clay. But only if you decide to be. When you wake up and say, I am not who I was. I am who I choose to become. You're not pretending. You're practicing. Identity isn't remembered. It's rehearsed. Every time you act in alignment with the future version of yourself, you are forming new neural pathways. You are literally rewriting the blueprint of who you are. The science of neuroplasticity tells us that repeated thoughts and behaviors reshape the brain. That means your morning declaration isn't fluff. It's neurological reprogramming. Let me take you into the life of someone I worked with, a high-performing executive who looked like he had it all: success, reputation, money. But inside, he was drowning. Why? Because every morning, he unconsciously repeated his past. He thought about all the ways he failed his father's expectations. He rehearsed the belief that he wasn't enough. And though his outer world looked powerful, his inner world was collapsing. When we got to the root, it wasn't strategy he needed. It was identity shift. He began saying one sentence every morning: I am not who I was. I am who I choose to become. At first, it felt foreign, even fake. But after a few weeks of repetition and deliberate action in alignment with that new identity, he began showing up differently. Not because his job changed, but because he changed. This is what I want for you. Not just improvement, transformation. And that starts with declaring who you choose to be and then proving it through how you live. Identity is not found, it's built. You build it every time you make a choice that aligns with your future, not your history. And yes, your past happened. Yes, those wounds were real, but they are not the final word. They are chapters, not conclusions. You're allowed to acknowledge what broke you without letting it define you. You can honor what happened without building your identity around it. The moment you say, I am not who I was, you reclaim the pen and start writing a different story. There is immense power in self-directed identity. If you don't define who you are, the world will do it for you. And the world is quick to label, based on your income, your relationship status, your mistakes, your past. But none of those things are the truth of you. The truth is who you become when you decide. That's why the second half of this declaration matters just as much. I am who I choose to become. Choice is the birthplace of change. No one can choose for you. And yes, choice is hard, but it's sacred. It means every day you get to direct your brain toward a new outcome. When you stop identifying with your pain and start identifying with your potential, you wake up a different force. A force no one saw coming, including the old version of you. So when you rise tomorrow, I want you to take a breath and say it. Not quietly, not passively, but like it's a truth written into your nervous system. I am not who I was. I am who I choose to become, and then you act like it. You speak like it. You walk like it. You work like it, until the evidence of who you're becoming is louder than the echo of who you've been. This is not about perfection. It's about progression. It's about remembering that your biology supports transformation. Your brain is not your prison, it's your playground. And you're the architect. So build, choose, declare, become, because who you were may have brought you here. But who you choose to be, that's what takes you beyond. There's something most people never learn about life, and it costs them everything: the power of responsibility. Not in the way we're taught as children. Clean your room, do your homework, follow the rules. I'm talking about radical responsibility. The kind that doesn't wait for perfect conditions, doesn't blame others, doesn't look for an escape route. The kind that looks life in the eye and says, "This is mine, all of it." Every single morning, before the noise begins, you have an opportunity to reclaim ownership of your reality. And it starts with this sentence: "This moment is mine." Say it again and feel it. Not tomorrow, not next week, this moment. Right now, you see, the present moment is not just a point in time. It's a window, a gate, a crossroads. It's the only place where action happens, where change can occur. The past is over. The future is uncertain. But this moment, you hold it. You own it. And when you say, "I am responsible for it," you activate a part of yourself that no longer waits for permission to live with purpose. Now, let's be clear, responsibility is not about blame. It's not about carrying guilt or fault. That's not what we're doing here. What we're doing is owning our power to respond. That's what responsibility truly means. The ability to respond, to lead yourself, to shift your focus, to guide your thoughts, and to choose your reactions. When you step into that space, you step into freedom. The human brain is wired to seek control, but it often seeks it in the wrong places. Other people, external situations, outcomes we can't predict. And that's why we suffer. Because we chase a false sense of control while ignoring the one place we do have it, our internal state, our moment-to-moment choices, the story we tell ourselves, the energy we bring into the room. Those are ours, no one else's. When you declare ownership over the present moment, you send a signal to your nervous system that says, "We are not victims here." That one shift changes everything. It downregulates the survival systems in your brain, the amygdala, the fear circuits, and brings the executive center, your prefrontal cortex, online. That's where conscious decision making happens. Creativity, focus, self-control, they all live there. But they can only come online when you stop giving your power away. I once worked with a man in his mid-30s who had gone through a divorce, lost his business, and was drowning in self-pity. Every conversation was about how unfair life had been, and listen, his pain was real. But his pattern was this: waiting for life to change before he changed, waiting for a rescue. And so he stayed stuck. One day I asked him, "What if no one's coming? What if this moment is yours, no matter how painful, and your job is to lead yourself out of it?" At first, he was angry, but then he got quiet, and over time, those words became his anchor. This moment is mine. He started doing small things, waking up early, walking every morning, making better decisions with his health. No miracles, no overnight success, but consistent ownership. And it changed him, because responsibility isn't glamorous. It doesn't always look like a breakthrough. Sometimes it looks like choosing not to complain. Sometimes it looks like making the call you've been avoiding. Sometimes it looks like taking a breath instead of reacting. But those moments, those are the moments that shape the trajectory of your life. When you say, "This moment is mine," you strip away the excuses. The moment you own your attitude, your effort, your focus, you become untouchable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger, and people will feel it. They'll notice the quiet confidence in your presence, because people who live with responsibility don't need to prove anything. They're not waiting, they're choosing. And that energy is magnetic. There's one more truth you need to hear: you are not late. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are standing at the edge of a moment that belongs to you, not because you earned it, but because it's yours. The question is, what will you do with it? So when you rise each morning, say it like a warrior stepping into battle. "This moment is mine, and I am responsible for it." Say it until your mind believes it. Say it until your body follows it. Say it until your actions reflect it. Because the second you own the moment stops owning you. And that's where real transformation begins. There will come a day, if it hasn't already, when the weight you carry will feel too heavy, when the mountain ahead looks too steep, when the thought of taking one more step feels unbearable. And in that moment, you'll be tempted to believe that maybe you're not built for this. That maybe the pain means stop. That maybe difficulty is proof that you're on the wrong path. But that's a lie. The truth is, you can do hard things. And not because you're invincible, or because the pain doesn't hurt, or because it's easy to keep going. You can do hard things because you're driven by something deeper, something stronger, something that roots you when life tries to rip you out of yourself, your purpose. Pain without purpose is torture. But pain with purpose, that's transformation. When you wake up in the morning and say, "I can do hard things because my purpose is stronger than my pain," you're doing more than saying words. You're giving your nervous system a reason to fight. You're telling your mind to endure, not because you enjoy suffering, but because the outcome on the other side matters more than the discomfort in front of you. You see, most people never fail because of pain. They fail because of disconnection. They lose sight of their why. They forget what they're fighting for. And when you lose sight of why you're suffering, that suffering becomes unbearable. But when you reconnect with purpose, when you remember who you're becoming, who you're protecting, who you're inspiring, you develop a level of grit that biology alone can't explain. There was a study done on Navy SEAL candidates, the elite of the elite. The strongest didn't always make it. The smartest didn't always make it. You know who did? The ones with a why. The ones who whispered to themselves during freezing swims and brutal training sessions. My family. My future. My mission? They weren't superhuman. They were just deeply anchored. Their purpose made them resilient. That's available to you. Pain is a part of this journey. Resistance is inevitable. But suffering is optional when you make your pain serve something greater than your ego. Think about the hardest thing you've ever overcome. Maybe it was heartbreak. Maybe it was loss. Maybe it was starting over. You didn't get through that because life made it easy. You got through it because somewhere inside you, you decided to keep going. That decision. That quiet, defiant moment of resolve is one of the most powerful human capabilities we have. Now imagine starting each day with that energy, not just waiting for it when things get desperate, but training it, wiring it into your identity. I can do hard things because my purpose is stronger than my pain. That becomes your nervous system's default response to challenge. Instead of collapse, you respond with courage. Instead of avoidance, you step forward, not because you're fearless, but because you're focused. Pain becomes the signal that something meaningful is happening, that you're being shaped, sharpened, tested, not punished, that your threshold is expanding. And yes, there will be moments when doubt creeps in, when the old story resurfaces. This is too much. I can't handle this. I'm not built for this. In those moments, return to your why. Don't look at the size of the obstacle. Look at the size of what's waiting for you on the other side of it. Maybe your purpose is your children. Maybe it's your vision. Maybe it's the life you never had growing up and the legacy you're determined to leave behind. Whatever it is, connect to it every morning. Let it be louder than your fear. Let it echo through your bones when your body wants to quit. Let it drive your decisions, your energy, your discipline. Because purpose does something miraculous. It turns suffering into strength. It turns adversity into fuel. It gives pain a job, and pain, when given a job, becomes bearable. So when the day feels heavy, when the voice in your head says you're not enough, when the challenge is greater than you anticipated, stop and remind yourself of this truth. I can do hard things because my purpose is stronger than my pain. Say it with conviction. Say it until your fear shrinks. Say it until your feet move. Say it until your identity matches the warrior you were always meant to be. Because you were never meant to run from the fire. You were meant to walk through it. There is a kind of power that doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention, doesn't compete for space, doesn't crave validation. It simply is. It stands in the center of the storm and stays still. It walks into a room and doesn't need to prove anything. That power is called silence. And in a world addicted to noise, external and internal, it has become one of the rarest, most misunderstood forms of strength. You wake up every day and the noise begins. Notifications, headlines, expectations, thoughts racing. The mind pulls you into everything at once: regrets from the past, anxiety about the future, to-do lists, self-judgment, comparison. It's exhausting before you even get out of bed. And what do most people do? They reach for more noise, a screen, a scroll, a shot of stimulation to drown out the discomfort of stillness. But here's the truth most people avoid. Your nervous system wasn't designed to be bombarded. It was built for rhythm, for moments of deep focus, for recovery, for pause and silence. Real, deliberate silence is how you reclaim it. When you say to yourself, silence is my power, you're making a radical choice. You're choosing clarity over chaos. You're choosing intention over reaction. You're choosing to listen not to the world, but to yourself. Now, I want you to understand something deeply important. Silence is not weakness. It's not passivity. It's not the absence of thought. True silence is presence. It's the moment when your nervous system stops reacting and starts observing, when your brain shifts out of survival mode and into awareness. That shift alone changes everything. It lowers cortisol. It resets heart rate. It strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for emotional regulation, decision-making, and focus. In other words, silence makes you stronger. I once met an athlete, world-class, Olympic level, who told me something I'll never forget. He said, "The day I stopped trying to outwork the noise and started training in silence was the day I became dangerous." What he meant was this: he used to let the crowd, the critics, and even his own thoughts control his energy. He was reactive. But when he started waking up early, sitting alone with himself for 10 minutes, breathing, focusing, being still, everything changed. His thoughts became clearer. His reactions slowed down. His game sharpened. Why? Because he learned to find power in the quiet. You don't need to be an athlete to feel the same transformation. Every single day, you have access to that stillness. The problem is, most people are afraid of it. Afraid of what they'll hear when the noise is gone. But what if I told you that the quiet holds the answers you've been searching for? You've been asking, what's next for me? What's wrong with me? Why do I feel so scattered, so tired, so lost? The answers won't come through the next video or scroll or conversation. They'll come when you stop, breathe, and listen. That's why choosing peace over noise is not just a lifestyle decision, it's a nervous system reset. It's not about escaping the world. It's about mastering your internal environment so that the external chaos doesn't own you. The moment you choose peace, you stop reacting. You stop chasing. You stop getting dragged into battles that were never yours to fight. And that choice, repeated daily, builds discipline. It builds emotional resilience. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop feeding the drama. You stop wasting energy on people who misunderstand your silence as weakness. Because deep down, you know silence is the proof that you don't need their understanding to validate your direction. When you wake up and declare, "Silence is my power," you're not just making a poetic statement. You're making a neural commitment. You're training your body to start the day grounded, present, unshaken. You're protecting your energy like a sacred fire. Some mornings, silence will be a breath. Other days, it'll be a journal entry, a walk, a pause before you check your phone. The method doesn't matter. The intention does. The point is to begin with presence, to signal to your mind and body that you're in control, not the chaos. And over time, something remarkable happens. You start to feel like yourself again. Not the version of you trying to keep up, trying to impress, trying to escape, but the real you. The one who doesn't speak unless it's from truth. The one who doesn't move unless it's with purpose. The one who knows that power isn't found in noise. It's protected in silence. So tomorrow morning, resist the pull of the world for just a moment. Sit in the stillness. Let the peace surround you. Let your nervous system exhale. And say to yourself, "Silence is my power, and I choose peace over noise." Say it with conviction. Say it like you mean it. And then carry that stillness into your day like armor. There's a moment every morning, right after you wake up, when a battle begins. Not outside of you, but inside. A quiet, invisible war between the voice that says, "I'll do it later," and the one that says, "I'll do it now." Between the self that wants comfort and the self that wants growth. That battle decides how your day unfolds. More than that, it shapes your identity, your future, and your ability to fulfill the purpose you keep saying you were born for. You might not hear the battle in words. Sometimes it sounds like checking your phone instead of moving your body. Sometimes it shows up as hesitation before that hard conversation or procrastination disguised as planning. But make no mistake, in every moment you delay, excuse, or overthink, something inside of you is quietly surrendering. And that's why this one declaration, spoken first thing in the morning, has the power to change everything. Today, I win the battle with action, not excuses. Because action doesn't lie. It doesn't make promises it can't keep. It doesn't depend on motivation, weather, or mood. It simply moves. And in the movement, momentum is born. In momentum, belief is built. And in belief, your entire identity starts to shift. Here's the harsh truth no one wants to admit. Most people are more committed to their excuses than they are to their evolution. They say they want transformation, but their actions say they want comfort. They say they want success, but their habits scream avoidance. And they spend their lives negotiating with procrastination, trying to find a version of progress that doesn't require pain, risk, or effort. But there is no growth without action. And there is no action without a choice. Now, I'm not talking about giant leaps or cinematic breakthroughs. I'm talking about the decision to start, to move, to send the message, make the call, write the first sentence, show up at the gym, put the phone down, speak the truth. Because when you take action, even in small ways, you tell your brain, "We're in charge." You deactivate the circuits of avoidance and activate the pathways of confidence. Neuroscience backs this. Dopamine, Our motivation and reward chemical is released not when we achieve the goal, but when we pursue it. The moment we act in alignment with our intentions, the brain begins to wire itself for more action. The body gets into motion. Your identity begins to say, "This is who I am now. I take action." That's how change happens. Not in one massive decision, but in 1,000 micro decisions to do the thing rather than delay it. I remember working with a young man who wanted to start his own business. For years he had ideas, notebooks full of plans, YouTube tutorials, motivation playlists, but no action. Why? Because deep down he feared failing. So he masked that fear with excuses. The timing isn't right. I need more clarity. I'm not ready yet. One day, after another excuse-filled conversation, I asked him, what if clarity doesn't come before action? But because of it? But that was the turning point. He didn't build the whole business in a day, but he did one thing: he took action. He made a call. That one move built momentum. And now, years later, that business exists, not because he had the perfect plan, but because he stopped letting excuses run his life. You can do the same. You don't need all the answers. You just need to act. Your brain will catch up, your confidence will grow in the doing, and yes, excuses will come. They're old friends. They know your pressure points. They'll show up in your mind dressed like logic, whispering lies like, you can start tomorrow, or it doesn't matter today, or you need to feel ready. But readiness is not a feeling, it's a choice. And today, you choose to win the battle with action. Not just once, but all day long. Every time hesitation shows up, you act. Every time doubt speaks up, you act. Every time fear creeps in, you act. Not recklessly, not emotionally, but intentionally, because every act, big or small, is a vote for your future, a vote for who you're becoming, a vote for the life you're building. So when you rise in the morning, speak these words like a warrior gearing up for battle. Today I win the battle with action, not excuses. Say it out loud, feel it in your bones, and then prove it, not for the world, for you. Because the life you dream about, it doesn't respond to excuses. It only answers to